Jess and Sarah, knowing how nearly impossible it would be for me to listen and not talk for 3 or 4 hours, how long this thing is going to go on, have allowed Morley and I 5 minutes to welcome you. Aaron, are you here? I've asked Aaron to help me with a little comic interlude. So this is Aaron. So Aaron, did you take classes from me?
Yes.
Yes, good. And did we work closely together?
Yes.
Yes. And would you say we had a meaningful collaborative relationship?
Absolutely.
Yes, and hundreds of hours.
Yes.
Probably mutually transformative.
Yeah.
Yes. It's amazing, I agree.
Yeah.
Jess recently said to me, I saw Aaron Rowan, and I said, who? I am not proud of that. No, stay here for a second. So like these name tags are at navel height. So to whatever extent your mercy permits, please feel free to come up to me and say to whoever I'm talking to at the moment, like maybe I'm with Morley, right? Okay? And you'd say like, hi Jeff, I'm Aaron. Jeff and I work together on, or I had a Dionysus class. And then we'll be fine. We'll all come rushing back in joy and terror for both of us.
And so he's making me do this, but so about a week ago, I was stepping into his office, and I had to sort of take a step back. After so many years, it looked so different. It was full of boxes, and all the books were down. It was dusty. It was chaos. And it kind of reminded me, last year in June, I was in exactly the same place. I was in my music classroom, and I was packing up boxes. I was going to retire. And all of a sudden, right after my last day of teaching, my morning classes were done, there was a tiny little girl in the doorway. And I said, Mitzi, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. And she said, I need to sing for you. And I said, no, Mitzi. I excused your class 10 minutes ago. You need to be out at recess. You're going to get me in trouble. And she said, no, I really, really have to sing for you. And she just darted in the room. She was standing on the music rug, and she started singing. Sort of a sad, strange little song. And I listened, and I applauded, and then as quickly as she came in, she darted out the door, and she disappeared. That Saturday, all the teachers had to come back to our school because all my colleagues were packing their boxes because we were going to move to a new site because they were going to tear down the old school. And so they invited the whole community to come in on that Saturday, one last day, just to come into that building and look over those old walls. And so all of a sudden, I'm packing my boxes again, and I hear a noise in the doorway, but this time, some very tall people are standing in my doorway, and they're laughing. And one shouts, Mrs. Proehl, is that you? And I go, yes. And they say, Mrs. Proehl, are you still here? And I said, yes, come on in. And they came right to the music rug. And I said, you really have to tell me your names because you have really changed since elementary school. And they started to tell me their names, and they started to say amazing stories. And most of them all were in college or had jobs. One was even an opera major. And all of a sudden, spontaneously, it was like a miracle, they started singing. They started singing songs that I had taught over a decade ago, and I was just stunned. It was just an amazing day. Well, now the segue, now the dramaturgical segue. Here you are, standing in the doorway coming into this magical space. Last night, Geoff and I coming to the stage, Kurt had yet done another of his many miracles. It was an extraordinary night. And just to see Sarah and Jess running around and collaborating together and pulling it all together, it was just so amazing. And even more amazing, it was to see all of you again and to hear your stories and to hear about you and what you're doing. And so I just want to say that I can end in 3 words, unlike my husband, and I'm going to end with 3 words from Charlotte's Web, because people wonder, how do you feel with retirement? Well, this is how we feel. We feel terrific. And we feel radiant. And we feel humble. Thank you.
You know, my mom and dad were both educators, and they lived rich, really deeply meaningful lives. My father taught me about fierceness and love, that they could be allies. My mother taught me to open my eyes and be amazed. And in 2011, when I was on sabbatical, I got a call that my mother had a stroke and was in the hospital. And my first thought was that she'd be really pissed off because it was not the first time she'd been rushed to the hospital and she was getting tired of all the attention. And when I arrived at the emergency room, knowing that I'd perhaps be saying to her the last words she would ever hear from me, which essentially she did, what I said was not, "I love you," but "thank you," over and over and over again next to her side. So I share with you this overly intimate moment to underscore what I'm about to say. I would have never made it to Puget Sound were it not for Morley, Kristen, and Josh. I would have not survived here were it not for Josh, for Kristen, for Morley, for Kurt, for Sarah, for Jess, for Ross, for Grace, Sue Owen, somewhere there, and so many, many more. And none of us would be alive in the way we are alive were it not for the presence in class and rehearsal, spaces both sacred and profane, of you, of our students, present and former, who did what Morley's students did. You stood in the doorway, you stepped into the room, and you began to sing. Whether it was the song of the stage manager, or the builder, or the board op, the designer, the director, the dramaturg, the scholar, or the actor, in one way or another, you said, you want me to show you, just for a moment, what it's like to love someone, what it's like to lose someone, what it's like to fail someone. And you did. You sure you want that? You said, you sure you really want to see what that's like? And you did. And for a moment, not just I, but all of us are held suspended in air. So great to hear those voices. and as close to the gods as I ever need to be. And afterwards, we're never the same again. So we've known one another, you and I, you and you. And I'm finishing with this. In fiction and in life, on the best and worst days of our lives, And yet, wonder of wonder, miracle of miracles. Here we are. Here we are. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've been very